Hello, I'm Howard Mann, creator of Conscious Shifting, and welcome to Conscious Shifting. Before we get started, a quick warning and disclaimer. Conscious shifting and all known side effects will improve your physical, mental, spiritual health while providing the ideal environment for spiritual awakening, helping you to live the life of your dreams and influence the world in a positive way. So, if that's something that interests you, you can follow us on Facebook or subscribe on YouTube, and then join us here Wednesday nights, 6 p.m. California time for Conscious Shifting. If you'd like to communicate with us, simply place your comment or question in the comment box during a live, during the replay of a live, or on any of our daily thought-provoking posts, and we will respond from a spiritual perspective. With that, let's get started. Hi, Cheryl. Love, laugh, and be happy in the house. Hi, Trey. And Kim, of course. All right. So we have a question of the week, and that is, what do you mean when you say a tree will be known by its fruits? Are you talking about our children? To that, I say no, but it could include whatever influence you've had on your children. In the Bible, Luke 6:43 through 45 says, and this is where Jesus is speaking, for a good tree does not bear bad fruit, nor does a bad tree bear good fruit. For every tree is known by its own fruit. For men do not gather figs from thorns, nor do they gather grapes from a bramble bush. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good, and an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth evil. For out of the abundance of the heart, his mouth speaks. So, what Jesus is talking about here, he's telling us how to recognize what people are about. He's telling us how to see into their hearts. For example, a hateful person will not manifest love, compassion, and understanding. If you look at what people create around them, you'll understand what's in their hearts. All right. So there's the question of the week. And tonight's, thank you, Cheryl. Hi, Tina. Indeed. Hi, Chris. All right. So let's get started. Tonight's topic is when psychology can't explain deja vu. So, have you ever walked into a room for the first time, but felt like you'd been there before? Did it make you wonder, how can this be? Because I've never been in this building before, let alone this room. During a conversation, have you ever suddenly felt that it's not the first time you've had this exact conversation? Or is it? Have you ever met someone new and they seemed so familiar that you had to ask, have we met before? Have you ever told somebody you just met that I feel as if I've known you all my life? Feelings of familiarity, such as having been somewhere or done something before, even though you think you haven't, is called deja vu. You could experience deja vu for many reasons, but they'll all have an eerie sense of being real. However, there are only two possibilities. Deja vu is real or it's not. Psychology can explain deja vu when it's imagined. So let's start there and then we'll move into the other option. Hi, Susan. I know it was like we both had that sensation like we were home for some reason when we went to Scotland. So there was one of those instances, just naturally at peace with everything there, the people, the culture, the buildings, a fascinating place, by the way. We will go back sometime. But that is a deja vu, where you go somewhere and it's like, I could swear that, I've been here before, but you can't really place it, but it's so familiar you can't get it out of your mind at the same time. So again, there's two possibilities. One is that it's imagined, and the other one is that it's a real event. Now, psychology explains deja vu for the most part as your mind playing tricks on you. And I'll give you three examples of that. The first one, distracted minds. Now, distracted minds are the norm. And if your mind is distracted and it quickly returns to the previous thought, it might seem as if you've been there before, when in truth, it's one event. So you're thinking or you're doing something, you get distracted, you come right back to it without realizing that you've consciously left. Your attention span has drifted off and come back. And so it feels like you've been there before, when in reality, you never left and it's all one event. People with short attention span and what's referred to as monkey minds, which are minds that chaotically jump from one thought to another, are more likely to experience this type of deja vu. Meditation will help with short attention spans and monkey minds. The second is, according to psychology, association of similar things. So when you experience a person or event similar to a person or event of the past, it may seem as if you've been there, done that before. For example, a particular type of personality, concert, sporting event, etc., will seem familiar. And you may then mistake the current event as something that you've done before. And the third is association of sights, sounds, and smells. So the association of your senses will trigger memories and then can make things seem familiar. For example, particular perfumes or cigar smoke will seem familiar and trigger memories. And then if the memories are kind of vague, that may cause you to mistake the current event for something that you've done before. Now, these are examples of how deja vu can be an imagined event. But the other possibility is that your deja vu is an actual event. Hi, Pippa. So, for example, have you ever been so wholly absorbed in an experience that there are no distractions or breaks in consciousness? And furthermore, the only thing that exists within your consciousness in such an experience is your awareness of it. And this unbroken flow or fluid experience is called presence. And anyone who's ever experienced presence will tell you that it's the absolute opposite of a mind trick. Hi, Melissa. So instead, it's an elevated state of awareness. It's not a mind trick at all. You're simply in an elevated state of awareness. And as this awareness increases, your ordinary awareness of self fades. So you seem to your ordinary sense of self kind of just fades away, and what's left is this experience. Now, presence can heighten your senses to the point of them being like superpowers. You suddenly find yourself with the sight of an eagle. Your sense of smell and hearing are like that of a wolf, while your spatial sense is similar to a bat's radar. And as if that's not enough, you also possess heightened focus, speed, and strength. Finally, you possess knowledge beyond ordinary consciousness that can only be described as a sixth sense. Now, these are all things that can happen during a complete or near complete state of presence. And not all deja vu experiences include total presence. However, deja vu does tend to heighten at the senses at least. So you're at least going to have some heightened sense. And that's what kind of gets your attention. Authentic deja vu experiences are so alive that they cannot be simple associations with similar memories. Unlike reminiscing, actual deja vu is now. And although the association of sights, sounds, and smells triggers memories, memories are memories of a past experience. But the authentic deja vu is not a mere memory, because while it replicates the past, it's also happening now. And additionally, the experience will be specific to a person or location in the now. And in some cases, there's no possible way for it to have been something that you'd experienced before it, at least not by rational explanation according to psychology and science, because, for example, this may be happening in a part of the world that you've never been before. So psychology has no way to explain these events because they can only be explained outside normal science. Pippa says, happens to me all the time. I thought it was me passing another realm of frequencies. Well, that is a possibility. So speaking of possibilities, there are actually many possibilities. Normal science assumes that your entire life, your entire experience exists within your brain and within a single lifetime. Still, we know that energy carries information. This is how computers work. This is how radios work. And this is also how your brain works. So if your brain were to pick up on energy outside of itself and then download the associated information, that might play out like a deja vu experience. This is similar to clairvoyance, but it's in combination with the now. So it's you're picking up information and the attached information, and it's so close to something that you're involved in right now, and the two kind of get meshed together that you have a deja vu experience. You follow that one? Kim says, usually when I have a deja vu moment, my stomach does a weird wave thing first. That's a perception of an energy shift. So that kind of tells you something, doesn't it? That there's other energy that you're becoming conscious of, and you're feeling it in the gut. There's a lot of nerves in the gut that are connected directly to the brain, directly to the central nervous system too. That's why sometimes, when you can sense something dangerous, or you sense someone you're close to may be in trouble, and you get kind of a sick feeling in your stomach. That's what that is. You're picking up on those energy waves. So it's also known that your cells store information, and that this information functions similarly to memories, but at a cellular level. So you have perhaps as many as 100 trillion cells that make up your body, and they're replicated approximately every year. And what allows this to happen is that the information is passed on. Right? If there was no information exchange, then the cell would die. That would be it. But the information is passed on. And so the cells replicate themselves. And that's why your body continues to exist as it does, moment to moment. Otherwise, you just start coming apart and going into the cosmos. It's unlikely that you're conscious of all the information stored within your 100 trillion cells. But if you become conscious of this information, it could produce a deja vu experience. Now, here's an example of that is really something to think about. If your cells pass information on to each other in this constant regeneration of your mind body, and if you understand how when your parents procreate and created you, there was information passed from their DNA to your DNA. So one example of this cellular thing might not even be something of your lifetime. For example, information is passed down through generations, plural, from parent to child. Could be many generations. Now, if this information was triggered as a memory, that could produce a deja vu experience. But in this situation, what you're talking about is one of your ancestors' lifetimes and a memory they had that rises into your conscious while you're doing something very similar. And so that creates the situation like, I could swear that I've done this before, because at a cellular level, you have, whether it was actually you or a different soul, at a cellular level, that information is there and serves as a memory to you. So it appears to you as if, as vague as it might be, that, yeah, this seems like something I've done before, because in a sense you're holding that information. Yeah, there you go. Hi, Billy. All right, so beyond experiences stored in cell memory are what's referred to as residual energetic imprints. Now, these are kind of on a loop, echoed in space time. So think about things that have happened, especially things that were very, very strong energy at the time. And so it's kind of this energy loop. And this information is just there, floating around in the cosmos. Now, if you were to pick up on that information, then that could cause a deja vu experience in the same way. So what's happening, if you notice in these situations, it's not always something that you have done. It may be something that someone else has done. It could be something that happened at a different time altogether, in the 1800s, the 1500s. You could be watching a movie that hit you hard. I had this experience with The Passion of the Christ. When I watched that movie, it was like I was there. Mel Gibson did a very good job on that movie, but when I say it was as if I was there, I mean exactly that. And so things in history that have very strong energies associated with them are more likely to produce these deja vu experiences. And it may be just something that's happened that was very, very, very strong, or a lot of people that were involved, or the people involved, it was so traumatic that it left this imprint on space time. But there's also the possibility that it's a past life experience and it's passing over consciously to produce the deja vu experience. So in this case, you're reliving an actual experience that you've had or your soul has had in a past life. And this type of deja vu is probably could be referred to as karma at its best. You know, you're reliving an event because you haven't actually processed it, and so it's still there's something still for you to work with that. You know, might have been some sort of trauma that you're still holding from 2,000 years ago in the example of somebody being crucified. Melissa says, something that intrigues me about creation: if our eyes are the last thing to die on our bodies, when exactly does life begin cellularly? At the spark. At the spark, life begins. When the egg and the sperm, when the sperm enters the egg, there's an energy release. Life has begun. The life process has begun. Now, there's some development, obviously, that has to occur before you could call that, a human being. But I can tell you this: I have some of my first memories during this lifetime were in the womb, and they are memories. I remember them as vividly as what I had for dinner tonight. I can tell you what it felt like, what it sounded like. A lot of gurgling and bubbly type of noises. I could hear voices outside of my mom. I was experiencing things on an emotional level that she was. I could tell the overall moods of the people in the room, all in the womb. So the individual soul enters it at some point. I don't know if that's right at that spark, but I can tell you that the life process begins at that spark, and it can be measured and it can be watched. Interesting to think about that. Kim's talking about the Passion of the Christ. It was hard to watch. I still, just thinking about it, I haven't watched it in a long time, and I still get choked up thinking about it. It was intense, very intense. Trey, you just described how I felt the first time I went to full moon ceremony and was smudged by the shaman. Then I would say that experience is very similar to events in your past lives. Well, we could do a live on past lives sometimes. It's not that critical. I don't want people to get distracted with that. Oh, I need to know what I did, who I was, what all happened. No, you don't. But there are things about your life, certain inclinations and tendencies that sort of give you a clue as to some of the stuff that was going on. And then events like that where you're being smudged and you could swear that you've done that before. Well, you probably have. And sometimes it can be useful in going way back to some trauma that you need to work through that actually occurred before this lifetime. In that sense, it can be helpful. But regardless, you'll experience it in this lifetime, however you experience it. And so you need to deal with the emotions on that level. But sometimes it's interesting to think about, and sometimes you can get a little bit of insight by allowing yourself just to sort of sit with that for a while. Pippa, hearing is the last thing that goes. Chris, I just watched a podcast today talking about that spark. The spark of life. And when it happens, there is an energy release similar to the Big Bang. In that there's this, all of a sudden there's all this information and energy that starts taking form and developing into something. In the case of that, the spark is going to develop into a human being, and in the case of the Big Bang, it developed into the universe. But Pretty cool stuff, huh? Chris says, I have vivid memories of being a baby, probably starting at 3 months old. That's pretty young. A lot of people don't remember anything before even like 7-ish, 6, 7-ish, because that's really when we kind of leave we start developing a conscious that is kind of individualized and not so much just information sponge believing everything. You start to discern things as an individual at about that age. So a lot of people don't have memories before that. It's a huge change in the human psyche around 6, 7 years old. Probably the one of the biggest changes of your life psychically is at that age. So 3 months is going back pretty far. That's really good. Melissa says, what if we came from one soul and what we consider the soul is spirit and often miscategorized as twin flames? I'm just theorizing here. A lot of people believe in the twin flame thing, where you have basically what that is a soul splits into two souls. And so the idea is that, there's a special connection similar to what twins experience, but there's this connection on a soul level with another. And if you find them during a lifetime, you can have kind of an interesting relationship. But the truth of the matter is that we're all one spirit. So we're all basically twin flames with each other, if you really want to think about it. And that's a little bit different than soulmates, because once you somewhat, you can't really separate spirit. It's still all one spirit, but you have these streams of consciousness that are projecting out in different directions, like rays of the sun. The rays of the sun still come from the sun, and they're still connected from the sun, but they are somewhat individualized. So souls are kind of like that to spirit, as the rays of the sun are to the sun. Once you get to that perceived separation, that somewhat individualized stream of consciousness, then you can have what's referred to as soulmates. So as there may be a group of people, this whole tribe may be that, where you have multiple lifetimes that you share. You find each other in multiple lifetimes and you're sharing the journey together. You kind of do it as a group. And so this explains why you gravitate towards some people more than others, why sometimes you'll meet people and you just instantly feel like you've known them forever, because you might have, and there might have been quite a few lifetimes that they've been your soulmate. Now the relationship can change. They might be your boss. The next one, you might be theirs. One might be the wife and the husband. The next life, the other way around, or friends or kids or grandparents. But soulmates tend to find each other and share experiences while they're here. Kind of an interesting aspect of life when you get into kind of like the spirit, what's going on spiritually while we're here. Trey says it was very comforting. And Billy, I remember about 3 years old. That's going back pretty good. Chris also remembered a past lifetime at 4 or 5 years old. Couldn't even talk about it then because of religious upbringing. Now that's interesting that because that's how past lives usually are. You don't remember everything about it, but you might remember a thing or a few things about it, a general setting or an event that left a real deep impression on you. And that sounds like one. You were 4 or 5 years old in this past life, and at that time you couldn't talk about it because of the religious upbringing. Interesting. Yeah, because you'll get shut down. You will get shut down. Religion it can be very very strict. And even when it's not strict, it can still be kind of controlling in the sense that you're made out to be some kind of weirdo or something wrong with you, or you're, depending on the religion, um, you're possessed or whatever, because you're talking about something that they don't really jive with, or they don't want to accept, is really closer to the truth. That's pretty interesting. The twin thing isn't all that great a time. Just saying. Now Kim is a twin, and her brother, he gets issues with pain. Kim ends up with them. And I've been married over 30, almost 37 years. Trust me, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. We'll call, and sure as shit, excuse my language, might be on the opposite side, but there's something that's like, in the same area of the body. Melissa, I agree. It's just the common direction people tend to go. I was being curious. I'm super tired, so kind of taking off the cup. That's all right. That's all right. Well, here's the thing. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help people understand things. If I have a gift, that's what it is. It's taking abstract things and making them more simple to understand, because I'm a simpleton. So, I'm able to put things in that way. And that's what I try and do to help people, really, to be honest, remind them of what they already know. But you have to kind of bridge with people to do that. So that's what I try and do. I appreciate that. But that's why I don't mind at all people asking questions. And I'll always, if I see them, and I almost always see them, I'll answer them. Kim, Tina, I definitely get days ago when attending powwows. It's so overwhelming. Well, you're probably there. There's something about that you need to acknowledge, or something happened then that wasn't quite processed. If you don't force things, but you can just kind of roll with that. Sometimes when you're sitting and it's quiet, you can even do it during meditation. You get quiet, get still, get relaxed, and then just think about what it is that reminds you, like powwows, and just, as you're meditating, just powwow, and see if that takes you somewhere and gives you any other information, and use all of your senses when you do it. There might be certain sounds, certain smells, certain feelings. You might smell smoke. You might, the drums. But if anything like that, then let your attention drift to that, and then try to get behind it, under it, what's beyond that, and see how far back you can go. And you may find yourself having an aha moment. And if you don't, that's all right. Just acknowledge what it is that you have been shown, and let it be. If there's something you're supposed to do with it, you will figure it out. You will. Hi, Katya. Powwows. Cool stuff. So, what were we talking about? We were on past lives. Now, there's science kind of gets into this, believe it or not, because there's theoretical physicists who believe that there's multiple universes, and that when the Big Bang occurred, it didn't just create one universe, it created a whole bunch of them, kind of like bubbles, and that's the way they usually describe it, that there's all these bubbles, and in each bubble that came out of the Big Bang is a different universe. And they think that it may be possible to cross from one to another. So what you could say about that then is that the energy, or I should say energy, and the information that it carries would be able to do the same thing. And so that might cause a deja vu experience, and it may be from an entirely different universe. How's that for a deja vu? Not only are you been there, done that before, but it's in a it's in a completely different universe. Now it could be a different version of you, it could be a different being, but this information is coming from an entirely different universe. So that's pretty wild, right? The winds are ripping here. Chris says that this group should have a weekend gathering somewhere out west. How amazing would that be? Yeah, maybe not this time of year because it's getting a little warm, but we could have some sort of I don't know, maybe we could find a place with, a small set of cabins or teepees or something like that. And or just, maybe somewhere else. I don't know. We could look around and see what's available. Some sort of a retreat where we all get together. That would be cool. Hi, Anna. Hip is in. All right. Now, some scientists think that there are infinite universes with infinite possibilities, and that different versions of you could be living in these alternate realities, these different universes. So according to these scientists, you could be, you know, they're saying infinite, which is basically forever. But let's just pick a number. Let's say that there's a trillion universes that were created during the Big Bang, and there was a trillion versions of you, slightly different, but one of these versions of you living in each one of these universes. So maybe we're having the equivalent of a Facebook Live in a million different universes, all on the equivalent of a Wednesday night, 6 p.m. California time. This stuff gets kind of weird. But the point is that I would make about that is, if that's so, then you would, of course, be consciously connected to them all on some level because they're you, right? And so this could cause a deja vu experience. Because on some level, consciously, you are living all those lives. And when some of them line up, then it creates that deja vu experience. Campsite at the beach, that would be fun. Yeah. All about that. We could have a moonlight meditation on the beach or something. Now, there are those that think all of this is BS. And what I would say then is, okay, I understand, this is a lot to comprehend. But if none of this is the case, then how can you know what you cannot know? That's a bit of a problem, is it not? More of a problem than any of this stuff. We know that there was a Big Bang. We know that the universe was created. So what's a further stretch? That you might have past lives, or you might be living in different universes at the same time, different versions of you. Reality is a little not what it seems. Well, we know that it's not what it seems. But would those things be more of a stretch than you knowing something that you can't know? Because there has to be an explanation, right? There's cases of people knowing things that in no way, as they say, can there be a rational explanation for how they know it. And although not accepted by everyone, reincarnation demonstrates the soul's ability to carry on information from previous lifetimes into current lifetimes. Not an actual memory, but more like traveling through time. And there's reports of people with memories of lifetimes, and they've been saying this stuff And then people start looking into it and they find historical documents that substantiate what they're saying. People, places, things, events that happened. How could they know that? They were there, or they picked up on that information somehow, or really the only explanations, right? Hi, Sue. Sue's University Alive. Wow, 2:34 a.m. Love you too. Talk about rise and shine bright and early. So kind of along those lines, there's some organ transplant patients that have reported strange, unexplainable memories and personality changes after surgery. And there are reports that these changes are associated with their organ donors, despite the identity of their organ donors being kept confidential. Now, talk about cell memory. So here you have, let's say you get a kidney or a heart from somebody, and then you wake up from the surgery was successful, you're living your life, you're in recovery, you get better, you're living your life, but you keep your personality changes in some way. You know something that you didn't know before. You have unexplainable memories that you know aren't of your life, but yet they're just like the memories you have of your life. Or there's little personality tweaks. You like or don't like something or react a certain way that you didn't before. And then come to find out that those things, you know, when they aren't explainable, apparently some of these people or doctors or whatever have accessed the information, looked into it, come to find out that the people that they got the organ from, that those were their part of their personality. So it must have been stored in the cell memory of the organ, and then the people are, once they get the or receive the organ, they start picking up on those memories as if they're their own. Pretty fascinating to think about. Now, I haven't verified all this stuff, but again, you know, I mean, there's so much of it out there, and there's doctors, legitimate research centers that claim that this stuff has happened and that it's been documented. So, but what I would tell you is that beyond physical reality is spiritual reality. Now, that I can tell you something about, because spiritual consciousness is beyond ordinary consciousness. So it's often mistaken as special psychic abilities. But the natural state of spiritual awareness is being connected to the astral plane. And within the astral plane is collective consciousness, and basically a collective mind of all beings. Therefore, all knowledge of all beings. And since it's part of consciousness that you have, then you have access to that. Now, whether you are always aware of it or how easily you access that information, that's an entirely different story. But collective consciousness is a real thing. It's what's manifesting this reality that we live in. Furthermore, science, and going back to science tells us that the non-physical realm, which is what they call the spirit realm, the non-physical realm exists beyond time and space. Therefore, everything that ever has existed, does exist, or will exist anywhere at any time, all exist right here, right now. Now, what does that mean? Turn it around a little bit more, and what you're really talking about is that consciousness, which is able to bridge over into this non-physical realm, it's where it comes from, is omnipotent or all-powerful, omniscient or all-knowing, and omnipresent or everywhere simultaneously. Now, where do those words come from? ancient religious scriptures when they're referring to God. All powerful, all knowing, all present. So the supreme consciousness, God, that conscious energy coming from the non-physical realm into the physical world in which we live, is all the same thing. But there's this collective of all of it, all souls, all mind, all combined. It's as if there's this library of all knowledge and events that the mind has ever experienced. But in truth, it's that there's many levels of consciousness beyond the human mind. And as you rise in consciousness, each level becomes less oriented to the physical and more towards the non-physical, eventually entering the spiritual realm where everything is happening now. So by entering the spiritual realm, you access total collective consciousness, which may appear to be psychic abilities or unworldly knowledge. However, the same conscious energy runs through all universes, as many as there may be, as well as between the physical and spiritual realms. And again, energy carries information. So here's my definition of deja vu. When particular conscious energetic paths cross, it results in deja vu. Whatever that is, past lives, other people's past lives, just other information that you're picking up, whatever it is, when you have specific conscious energetic paths that cross, it results in a deja vu. And everyone is spiritually connected and part of everything. Ultimately, we're one spirit. So you could say that collective consciousness is an expression of oneness. So as higher states of consciousness emerge, you can tap into the spiritual field of consciousness, which is far more than memories, intellectual knowledge, and mind tricks. The spiritual realm is an eternal experience of what is. And so are you. All right. Let's see if I missed anything here. Tina says she's read about it and it's fascinating, and Trey's getting chills. Yeah, it's out there, but only, here's the thing about all this stuff that we talk about, in spirituality, some of the things that you get into, it's only out there and sounds like BS because it's not of this realm. But then that's just it. Some of this stuff can't be explained by science and religion because they're of this realm. You have to take it beyond this realm to explain things that are beyond this realm. And the only thing that can really do that is spirituality. Now, when you start talking about spiritual truths, spiritual concepts, you're talking about something that's contrary to the status quo. So you're going to sound like a nut, you really are. Oh man, he's lost it now. Now he's talking about past lives and memories and multiple universes. Well, yeah, okay. I get that, but look at it this way. You want to start talking about who's nuts. You have the status quo, the predominant world consciousness, which, as I've told you, is primarily identified with ego. And so what it's manifesting is an egotistical reality. We have war, we have poverty, we have starvation. Now compare that to love and compassion. Which one sounds more nuts? And if they're both insane, I'll pick the love and compassion insanity any day of the week. Lock me up, throw away the key. All right. So, but it works. And I think that healing takes place, and it works, and it creates peace. And those are evidence of truths. The fact that it works, is it not? Going back to the question of the week, a tree will be known by the fruit that it bears. If what it bears is love, compassion, and understanding, then you're talking about a very high level of consciousness. Probably that which you would say is godlike, right? And certainly not the typical human like. So there it is. Thank you, Cheryl. Kim's asking, what about when it seems time stopped? That's another thing that's common when you enter a state of total presence. When you're in such a heightened state that it's just you're experiencing things as they are. You're not judging them. You're not analyzing them. You're not living a life based on memories of past experiences and trying to relate that to the current moment. You're just in the flow. And so it's as if time stops. It's exactly how it can feel. I'm not saying it always will feel that way, but it can feel that way. And your senses can become so heightened that it's like you have superpowers. Those are things that happens when you're holding very high levels of presence, when you've really let go of judging and opinions and analyzing, thinking this world, when you just become the experience. It's even more than the difference between the knower and the thinker is just the experience itself, where there's not even you anymore. There's just this awareness of what is. And in that instance, time stops, because it's not judging reality. It's not perceiving things through the senses and judging them. It's experiencing them as they are. Hard to really fully understand until you've experienced it. But I can tell you that there's sometimes in emergencies it might happen. That's common for people to experience presence in emergencies. They don't realize it at the time, but they drop all of their opinions and thoughts and judgments about everything, and they're just in the groove, and their reflexes are very fast. And even in an emergency, they can be very calm and just do what needs to be done without thinking about it. It's in the flow, as they say. Good question. Trey says it's hard to fit in sometimes. The more spiritual you get, the harder it is to fit in. Ask Jesus about that one. He'll tell you. Yeah. Tina's been to some powwows, so some of them are really good. All right, so let's do a quick healing circle here. Put this up so people know. All right, so form a circle, join hands. Everybody in. Gently close your eyes and your mouth, breathing through the nose down to an area just below your belly button. Exhaling back out through the nose. So breathe in peace. And exhale all tension. Breathe in peace. And exhale all stress, troublesome thoughts, disease, negativity. Breathe in peace. And exhale any remaining tension. Now continue breathing deeply on your own, settling into the relaxation. Let the outer world go for a while. You are a living, breathing being, at least at the moment, temporary as it may be. You are inhabiting the mind body. So you are experiencing life in the physical realm as a living, breathing being. So follow the breath inward and then expand with the breath as it moves outward. And with each breath, expand a little bit more. Fill the healing circle with breath. The healing circle lives and breathes. You are one with the healing circle. Fill planet Earth with breath. Planet Earth lives and breathes. And you are one with planet Earth. Fill the universe with breath. The universe lives and breathes. And you are one with the universe. Now, beyond the universe, beyond life, beyond breath, is pure consciousness. And you are one with pure consciousness. In essence, that's what you are. And all exists within consciousness. Let's just sit with that for about a minute and then we'll continue. Okay, so all exists within consciousness. So let's focus on unconditional love. And hold that for the world. Hold that for the universe and all beings in it. And so it is. To talk about your energetic loops cast out into space-time, that's a pretty good one, isn't it? Unconditional love. All right, so let's see if there's any final questions, and then we will call it a night. Pippa says, I didn't see this before we started, that she has someone who's close that's fighting addiction. So would you please lift them up? Let's everybody real quick. Typically addictions are, something that the person is unwilling or unable to deal with. And so they use various addictions as a coping mechanism or as a masking mechanism. So let's just go back to that vibe of unconditional love. Get that in your head. And the essence, we don't even need to know this person, but the essence of the person that Pip is talking about is part of the same spirit that we're part of. So let's send out like this group hug and just surround this person and bring them into the fold. So that on an energetic level, they feel what we know. And then there'll be some healing that takes place. That'll probably help them more with addiction than anything. And so it is. All right. Thank you all. Kim's reminding everybody to drink a full glass of water, stay hydrated when you're doing energy work. So with that, I honor the God in you. And remember, until the next time, the only way to bring about the greater good is to be the greater good. Good night.